Thanks a lot, Ephraim. I guess you have asked us to refer to a number of subjects that will take more than 20 minutes. So if you could bear with me for a while, I would appreciate it. Anyway, I'm glad that Camille is here. I think that I commend him for being the chairman of the, what he has already mentioned, the Brussels seminar to reconcile between so many egos that were in the room. He mentioned Ambassador Sultania. It was the first time for me to see that guy in action, and it's, I can understand how difficult it is, and I can also understand your remark that not everybody has to be in the room at the same time, since that becomes a mission impossible. I would go also and agree with some of the points that you have made, but we'll have some perhaps minor disagreements. Be it as it may, I will refer to the 2012 conference, or perhaps it has is not longer tied to 2012. It is already a term, because I'm not that sure that 2012 will really take place at 2012. It might take some time even later, but what happened that it has become the best show in town next to the Iranian one, and there's a flourishing number of track one and a half meetings, and after all, people like us thrive on it. Anyway, if the world were a stage and we were all actors on that stage, then the theater piece that is named the resolution of 1995 and the implementation of it is quite a theater of absurd, given the realities in the region right now. I'll even go a step further and say that those who initiated that resolution, that is first and foremost Egypt, are not really interested in establishing a zone, because after all, they, as well as we and all others, especially those who are in the room, know that there are no short cuts to such an undertaking. I'll even go a step further and say that the initiative is a euphemism, because the Egyptians are not really interested in a nuclear weapon-free zone. They have a one and foremost interest, and that is to have Israel adhere to the NPT, which is again a euphemism to dismantle Israel from what they believe is Israeli nuclear capabilities. So that is simply to frame the stage where we are now on. I think that in speaking of how realistic it is to have a conference in 2012, and the fact that that is the most important decision that was taken by the NPT Review Conference in 2012, only highlights that, I mean, if that was not Israel, one would have to invent Israel, because instead of dealing with some, what I would say, terminal problems that the regime has been going through and suffered since the year 2000 and even more, and instead of dealing with those outstanding issues, the regime, and that is also partly due to the decision taken by the United States that preferred to have a concluding document rather than finishing where it should have finished on an unhappy note, stating that the conference was not able to deal with the outstanding issues that have to do with the protocol, with the clause regarding the withdrawal of countries, and even more so with the countries that have been violating the regime, be it Syria, Iran, and some other countries. Let me open a bracket which should also puzzle us as to the future in terms of trust and confidence in inspection. and ask a question which, when I pose it elsewhere, some Arabs feel uncomfortable. What is it in the political culture that this region of the Middle East stands out as almost the only region where countries who decided freely to join the NPT regime are violating that regime and, to a certain degree, are getting away with? Back in 1981, when Israel bombed the Iraq, we were kicked out of the IAEA technical assistance because we have violated something, but those countries. So what is it in the political culture of that region that speaks for a culture of violating norms that countries have taken freely upon themselves? So anyway, that is, as I said, is trying to set the stage. As to the Israeli position formally on the 2012, since I'm happily no longer an official, and since there is nobody on the podium that speaks for the official, I will only quote half of a sentence of the statement which was issued by the Israeli government a day after the conclusion of the NPT review conference on the 29th of May, in addressing the resolution and the implementation in 2012. The Israeli position is that Israel, quoting, Israel will not be able to take part in its implementation. And I think that one should, I will repeat it, Israel will not be able to take part in the implementation. That is to say that if we will deal with something other than the implementation of that resolution, Israel might consider taking place, participating, and I'll come to it in a second. So that is as far as the Israeli position concerning the 2012 conference. As to the participation or not participation of the resolution, to what conference are we invited? I think that for the sake of those who are here, who I'm sure that though they have learned it by heart, some of them have forgotten since the resolution was taken more than a year ago, I will, if you could bear with me for 20 seconds, because I will simply read what is it that we are asked to attend. So, I mean, the resolution has more than a few articles, but the relevant one states the following. The conference, mainly the NPT, emphasized the importance of a process leading to full implementation of the 1995 resolution. That's not me. Implementation of the 1995 resolution, that was the resolution that was taken within the NPT conference to establish a nuclear weapon-free zone in the Middle East. For that to happen, the UN Secretary General and the co-sponsors of the 1995 Middle East resolution, and those are the three co-sponsors, the UK, United States, and Russia, in consultation with states of the region, will convene a conference in 2012 to be attended by all states of the Middle East on the establishment of a Middle East zone free of nuclear weapons and all other weapons of mass destruction. Ephraim, you mentioned also means of delivery, but that is not the language here of the resolution. As I said, the establishment of a free zone and all other weapons of mass destruction on the basis of arrangements freely arrived at by the states of the region and with the full support and engagement of the nuclear weapon states. The 2012 conference shall take as its terms of reference the 1995 resolution on the Middle East. Appointment by the UN Secretary General as co-sponsors of the 1995 Middle East resolution in consultation with states of the region of a facilitator that Camille has already referred to, with a mandate to support implementation of the 1995 resolution by conducting consultations with states of the region in the regard and undertaking preparations for the convening of the 2012 conference. The facilitator will also assist in implementing of follow-on steps agreed by the participating regional states at the 2012 conference. The facilitator will report to the 2015 review conference and its preparatory meeting. And finally, designation by the UN Secretary General and co-sponsors of the 1995 Middle East resolution in consultation with the states of the region of a host government for the 2012 conference. So, I mean, for all of you who are not familiar with that's the language of what is likely to happen. In the meantime, after a very long haul, the Secretary General of the United States of the United Nations has announced the appointment of a Finnish diplomat in office, and also has decided that Finland will host that event. Now, why is it that Israel cannot attend such a conference? Before answering another question, under what circumstances Israel might be willing to consider, as far as I'm concerned, attending such a conference? Well, the reason for the fact that Israel cannot attend such a conference is that the 1995 resolution, as well as the 2010 resolution, were taken by member states to the NPT, which Israel is not a party to, and therefore, rightfully so, was not consulted on the content of that conference. Had we been members of that conference, we would probably have made all what it takes to find another way to craft the resolution and to make it a resolution which goes a long way to accommodate our national security interests, which is fair enough, because each and every country would like to see at the end of the day his national security interest not being undermined by a conference which he is a party to. And therefore, as we have no part of the conference, what we hear in those track 2, track 1.5 is a kind of a mandate. I mean, it's nice that you are not member of the club, but nevertheless, I mean, more than 180 members of the NPT have decided, and you have to follow suit and attend such a conference. And what I say is what we hear in the course of many track 2 events, that's the expectation. You were not there, too bad for you, but please fall in line with what the majority of states. As you have seen from the text, the terms of reference, and that is another reason why we cannot participate, the terms of reference deal only part of the security dilemma and problems that we are confronted. It is true that WMD is one big issue that will have to be dealt. But as far as Israel is faced with one level and two levels below the ultimate of weapons of mass destruction, chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons. And those weapons one can see if one is a settler along the Gaza Stripe or elsewhere. That is the conventional realm, which is a serious threat that Israel has to deal with. It is not only an irritant, but it is a strategic threat that has to be dealt both, as I said, on the Gaza front and Hezbollah. And that conference is not meant to address those issues. So I think that if all issues were to be addressed, then we will have another one. So I guess on the face of it, those are the major reason that why Israel cannot attend such a conference. I could have gone, but for the sake of the time, I will stop here and then move to the next question. since we are genuinely, and if we are not, we should be interested in a regional engagement, something which is critically missing in the region, and interaction at the regional level beyond the bilateral, which also unfortunately doesn't exist the way I would hope, both with Egypt and Jordan, at least as far as the non-confidential information is concerned. The region is lacking a regional forum to address the outstanding issues and in a very comprehensive manner. So I think that there is a genuine interest, there should be on the part of Israel to have that. But I think in order for Israel and others to engage in a constructive manner, the agenda, and that is a question posed by Ephraim, the agenda has to be a far-reaching and comprehensive agenda, taking all issues, starting from confidence, going through conventional, and ultimately ending with the icing of the cake for the Egyptians and others, and that is the WMD. And I think that I'm not going to reinvent the wheel in terms of what would it take for us to attend that conference in the ideal world, because I will refer to some wise words that were addressed by the former Chief of Staff of the National Security Head, Jim Jones, and President Obama. The two of them, in a way, embarrassed by the outcome of the NPT conference, to which they contributed a lot, found themselves a day after puzzled about, not to speak about some problems that they had with us Israelis, because our expectations were a bit different than what was the outcome. But at any rate, trying to make good for the decision that was taken also by the full participation of the U.S. at the conference, they came out and made those points, and I feel that if those points will be taken on board, then we will have a different conference, which, if asked, I would recommend Israel to participate. So what were briefly the points that they have made during the different statements that were released by both the President and Jim Jones? Briefly, from the President's statement following the conference, he spoke about the need to hold a regional conference. And I will not fill you in with Israel's approach to arms control and regional security. I mean, there is a lot of literature on that issue, which was crafted during the 90s as a follow-up to the Madrid conference. We have launched a multilateral conference within which one of the working group was on arms control and regional security, and with that we have developed an expertise, and we have outlined Israel's position, which would then was addressed publicly by the then Director General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Eitan Ben-Tzur, at the Conference on Disarmament in Geneva. Our approach so far is the regional approach as opposed to the global approach. So President Obama speaks about the region. May I say that the fact that the United Nations Secretary of the United Nations had made that announcement about the facilitator, and if what follows will be a UN conference, then it will be an international conference where we will have participants from beyond the region. And I think that I privately will have some difficulties with such a gathering, which goes way beyond what we feel ought to be, and that is a genuine regional interaction, of course, agreed upon with participation by some extra regional members that are key and crucial to help us go along. And when the stage comes, implementing will also have to play a complementing role in implementing some of the decisions that will be taken. Second point that he made, that the conference is there to discuss. In other words, no negotiations, and at that stage, no need for decisions that will have to be taken. Our view, the President continued, is that a comprehensive and durable peace in the region and full compliance by all regional states with their arms control and non-proliferation obligation are essential precursor for its establishment. And that is not what the 1995 conference called for, if you still recall what I mentioned earlier. We strongly oppose efforts to single out Israel. And that is in fact what the conference, what the NPT decision did. Singled out Israel for that matter, and we have some difficulties. We strongly oppose efforts to single out and will oppose actions that jeopardize Israel's security. I will not go into it. It's quite clear for all those who see it. And finally, the greatest threat to proliferation in the Middle East and to the NPT is Iran's failure to live up to its obligation. That was a statement that was made in 2010. Following the report by the IAEA, it's quite clear that I think the issue looms large and the international community is simply unable to cope with that challenge at this stage. That is a quick excerpt from, a short excerpt from Obama, and a bit more extensive remarks were made by Jim Jones, which I'll go also briefly and then conclude Ephraim. Despite our agreement...
Shimon, you're speaking about its expense of Professor Gunai, so...
despite
I can economize.
Despite our agreements, the U.S. understands that the WMD-Free zone in the Middle East is a long-term goal. To be effective, it must include all countries of the Middle East and other relevant countries. Here, he opens up an issue which we in the arms control and otherwise deal, it's like almost a scholastic or perhaps a different sort of debate, who belongs to the Middle East. What are the countries? The assumption is that it's the Arab League plus Iran and Israel, though I've seen lately an article by Ephraim Halevi suggesting that to such a conference we have to add Pakistan, and because it's Pakistan it will have to be India. And what about North Korea? That is a proliferator. So we end up with a conference which is way beyond the defined region. The U.S. will insist that this will be a conference for discussion, as I said, the exchange of views, broad agenda, include regional security matters. It will draw its mandate from countries in the region. The principle is the region have the sole authority. They will insist that everything is taken by decision by consensus, and they will be against singling out Israel, and so on and so forth. So I think that you get the feeling of what I personally is that if Israel were to attend the 2012 conference, it cannot be based solely on the mandate of the NPT to 2010. It will have to be, and that is the prime objective of the facilitator, that will have to find a way to reconcile between the different agendas by the respective parties. Otherwise, if they want to have their own party, they can go and have it, though I'm not so sure if I say that Israel will find it difficult to attend. I think that last word on other participants like Iran, would Iran like to attend it? How about Syria? So it is an issue which is not yet there, but as I said, I mean, it is the best show in town, and therefore everyone feels that he has to contribute the way that I have contributed a bit longer than I thought, but I will finish here.